Chapter 1. The Rain and the Cry for Help. Dr. Emily Carter had always held the belief that every life mattered, whether human or animal. This conviction was what motivated her to become an emergency room doctor at St. John's Medical Center, one of the busiest hospitals in New York City. The long shifts, sleepless nights, and emotional toll were all worth it to her. On a particularly rainy evening, Emily had just wrapped up a grueling 16-hour shift, her scrubs damp with sweat and her body aching with exhaustion. All she wanted was to get home, take a hot shower, and collapse into bed. As she stepped out of the hospital, the cold rain poured heavily, drenching the streets. The usual chaos of the city was muted by the storm, with only the sound of car tires splashing through puddles breaking the silence. Then she heard it, a faint, desperate whimper. She paused, her heart clenching, and looked around, squinting through the downpour. That's when she spotted it, a tiny shivering puppy curled up next to a dumpster in the alleyway. The little creature was soaked to the bone, its ribs visible beneath the matted fur. Its weak cries tugged at something deep within her. Without hesitation, Emily rushed over, kneeling down and ignoring the cold water soaking her knees as she gently picked up the trembling puppy. "It's okay, little one," she whispered, cradling it against her chest as she hurried back to the hospital. She could feel the frail heartbeat against her palm. The puppy wasn't just cold, it was sick and starving. It needed help. Chapter 2. The decision that changed everything. Emily understood she had to act quickly. Her apartment was too far away, and the puppy needed immediate care. Without even thinking, she turned around and walked back into the hospital. She hurried past the ER doors, her mind racing. She planned to use just a few supplies, a blanket, some fluids, maybe a bit of glucose to stabilize the poor animal. It didn't seem like a big deal, or so she thought. As she stepped inside, she caught the sharp gaze of Dr. Marcus Langley, the hospital's chief administrator. "What the hell is that?" he barked, staring at the shivering bundle in her arms. Emily straightened her spine. "It's a puppy, sir. It was dying out in the rain. I just need a few supplies." "You brought an animal into the hospital." His voice was icy. Emily swallowed hard. "I couldn't leave it to die." Dr. Langley's expression darkened. "You know the rules. This is a sterile environment, not a shelter." "I understand, but you've been warned before about crossing the line, Dr. Carter." Her heart pounded as she realized the gravity of the situation. "Sir, this isn't about protocol, it's about doing the right thing. It'll take just a few minutes, and I'll clean everything up afterward." Dr. Langley folded his arms. "No, you broke hospital policy, and you knew it." She opened her mouth to argue, but his next words made her blood run cold. "You're fired." The room spun. Fired for saving a life? She stared at him, disbelief washing over her. "You can't be serious. Clean out your locker. Security will escort you out." The words cut through her like a knife. Chapter 3. The longest 40 minutes of her life. The next few minutes were a blur. Emily numbly gathered her belongings, her hands shaking. Nurses whispered in shock, some casting sympathetic glances, but no one dared challenge Dr. Langley. Her career, everything she had worked for, was gone just like that. However, as she stepped outside into the cold night, she looked down at the puppy, now wrapped in her old scrub jacket. Its eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. She had lost everything, yet she had saved a life. Somehow, amidst her devastation, that thought brought her the slightest bit of comfort. Then, 40 minutes later, everything changed. Chapter 4. The call that changed everything. Emily was sitting in her car, staring blankly at the rain hitting the windshield. With no job and no idea what her next move would be, her phone rang. She almost ignored it, but something made her glance at the screen, an unknown number. Hesitating, she picked up. "Dr. Carter," said a warm, familiar voice. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Robert Kensington. You treated my daughter Lily last year. She had a rare heart condition." Emily's breath caught in her throat. Of course, she remembered Lily Kensington. She had been one of her toughest cases, a 6-year-old girl with a heart defect. Emily had fought tooth and nail to save her life. "Yes, of course, Mr. Kensington," she said softly. "How is Lily?" "She's thriving thanks to you." He paused. "Listen, I just heard what happened at St. John's. I can't believe they let you go over something so humane. Emily swallowed hard, feeling the sting of injustice all over again. I was wondering, Mr. Kensington, he continued, how you'd feel about coming to work for me. Emily blinked. I'm not sure I understand. I run Kensington Medical, a private hospital. We believe in doctors who care, and I have a position open, Chief of Emergency Medicine. The salary is triple what you were making. Emily gasped. Triple? Yes, he chuckled. I hear you're good with animals. Our hospital has a partnership with a veterinary clinic. I think you'd fit in perfectly. Tears welled in her eyes. Was this really happening? I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say yes, he said warmly, and bring the puppy. We could use a hospital mascot. Epilogue, The Power of Kindness. A week later, Emily walked into Kensington Medical, the puppy she had named Lucky trotting beside her with a wagging tail. She had lost everything that night, but in just 40 minutes, she had gained something even greater, a hospital that valued her heart, not just her skills, a career that didn't punish compassion, and a tiny life that reminded her why she had chosen medicine in the first place. As she stepped into her new office, Lucky curled up at her feet, and she smiled. She had done the right thing, and the universe had rewarded her in ways she never could have imagined. Moral of the story: compassion and kindness may cost you in the short term, but they will always bring greater rewards in the long run. When you do the right thing, even when no one is watching, life has a way of giving back in ways you never expect.